Okay, we need to complete this model, and to do that, I've made a few adjustments. So here we are on the loan amortization page, and I still have my lease modeling page. However, now I'm taking the first year's NOI divided by a going-in cap rate and then multiplying by the square footage. So let me just show you how that works. First, I will delete this just to show you where this is coming from. So this is $20. It's the sum of the net operating income for the first year of the whole property. Now, as we learned before, the cap rate is the net operating income divided by the amount that you invest, or you can back into the amount that you're supposed to pay based on the market for the specific kind of property. So let's say in New York, multifamily buildings go at a 5 cap. That means you take that NOI, you divide by the cap rate, and you've now backed into your purchase price. So we're going to take this, divide by the cap rate here, and multiply by the square footage of the whole building, which is 20,000. So we made a few adjustments. I wanted each of these tenants to be 50% of the building so that we had a more straightforward calculation. Also, I had to add a column so that we have a row 0 here, so that when I show you, when we do the acquisition and the sale, you can see how that works. Now, to start with, we need the acquisition cost, which is the negative of the purchase price. Then we're going to go down to debt proceeds, and that's going to be a positive. And our interest and principal payments are not going to start right away, but we're going to use a lookup formula to get them. Again, we're going to use the specific type of lookup that I like, which is an index match. So we're going to take the index, and the array that we're going to pick from for this row is the interest payment. The array starts here. And we need a row number. Match delivers the location. So we're going to look up either the date or the period. I think in this case, it's best to use the period. Month 1, and then we take the array of the period. Close the parentheses. Month 1, the interest payment is $22,500. And as you can see, that is a match of $22,500. But we need to be very careful because there are cells that need to be locked. So these arrays all have to be completely locked. And the month has to be dynamic. So as I drag this across, and let me create some X's so it's a little bit easier. Probably too many. Formulas dragged across. And we just need to clean up some of the formatting and make sure everything matches. So let's just go to month 10, 22,441. Month 10 is 22,441. I'm going to change some of the formatting. Since we're doing this part on a per square foot basis, I'll change it to per square foot divided by the square footage. Lock that cell. Drag that across. And get rid of the dollar sign. Next is going to be the principal payment, and that's going to be almost the exact same formula. So in order to copy the formula exactly, we'll open up the cell and hit highlight it and hit Control C and then Control V. Now the only thing that's going to change is the array from which we're grabbing. So this is column H, which is the interest payment. Just have to check where the principal payment is. It's column I. So if I change this to I and I, as you can see, it's 0. Remember, we have the interest only period. And then the principal payments start to kick in. Now, we have to model the sale, and to do that, we need another assumption, the exit cap rate. We'll assume that that's 4.5% because the goal on a conventional investment is to buy the higher cap rate and sell the lower cap rate. So we also need to assume a sale date. Now, this is a 10-year hold. So we have a lease expiration date of 12/29. We're going to assume that it's a year before that because we need an NOI that goes out one more year than the sale, which we didn't build out. So we'll sell in year 9, which would be the E-date formula. Start date is the same. And then we'll say that it's 9 times 12 minus 1. So that's 108 months minus 1. And the sale date is going to be in 2028. To model the sale, we're going to use the alternative if statement where we take an equal sign and set the date equal to the sale date. I'll show you how that works in a second. So we need to leave the date dynamic and lock the cell. So that's a false, and we'll multiply by 1 and you get a 0. So watch how this works. We go all the way out to the sale date. We get a 1. Now what we need to do is make sure that we're getting an NOI that computes a sale price based on the NOI 1 year forward. So it's not based on this year's NOI, it's based on the NOI 1 year from the sale date, which is why we had to make the sale a year earlier than the entire analysis. So multiply this by sum, and I'm going to use the offset function. Now what the offset function does is it allows you to reference a cell or a set of cells based on a reference point in another cell. So let me show you how this is going to work, this particular formula. You take the net operating income in that row, 1 column forward, height of 1, but a width of 12. That way it's taking 12 months. Copy that formula. Now, if we go all the way out, you can see what it's doing. It's taking these 12 months. So 12 months from the end of year 9. So it's taking the year 10 NOI. Now what we need to do is divide that by the exit cap rate. Lock that cell. And you have the sale price in per square feet, of course. Clean up the formatting. And I just noticed this, we also need this in per square feet. The last step is to model the loan payoff, or at least the last complicated step. After that, it's addition and subtraction. The loan payoff is fairly simple, and it's going to use a combination of two things that we just learned. One is the alternative if statement. So we're going to say if we're going to set the month equal to the sale date again. Parentheses, and then we're going to multiply times a very similar index match formula that we used for the principal and interest. Index match in general, or VLOOKUPs and HLOOKUPs, is a good way to transpose vertical information into a horizontal format or vice versa, since a lot of the time people like to do loan amortization in vertical format and cash flows in horizontal format. So we're going to take the index of the remaining balance, lock that array, and here's our match formula, which is going to be the month and the array will be the period on our amortization schedule. And let's make sure that's correct. The cell needs to be locked. This is locked. This is dynamic. Copy that formula across. Make sure it's working correctly. And there it is. This would be the balance in month 108, which is 12/31/28, and month 108 is right here, and we have a match. Now we just need to change this to per square foot and change the format to the formatting that we've been using. So the building's GLA. And no symbol. Now the last step is just to make sure all of these line items have everything we need in it. So this is going to be cash flow after debt service. with sale. So I will be taking the the cash flow before debt service plus the acquisition plus the sale plus the debt proceeds minus the interest payment minus the principal payment and minus the loan payoff. So as you can see, we've only had to put $100 down per square foot on this building. I made some formatting adjustments from the last video. I got rid of all the X's at the end. I just want you all to make sure that your formula is adding up correctly. You should have the last year being 455 for 12 months. As you can see, we have our sale price and then the debt payoff in the last year. So in the last year, you're going to have income from your NOI, income from your sale, then you're going to have an interest payment and a principal payment and a debt payoff. Now, just to make this a little bit clearer, I'm going to say that this is per square foot. Now, cash flow after debt service total. Just take these and multiply by the building's GLA. So let's make this easier with the X here. Clean up the formatting. And there we go. Now we're going to do our returns. To do that, I just want to make sure that we're not showing any numbers after the sale date. So to do that, I'm going to use an if statement. It's going to be if the date that we're in is greater than the sale date, and lock that cell. Show 0. If not, show our numbers times the square footage. Copy that across. Now, as you can see, we don't show anything for the last 12 months. The first return metric I'm going to show is our total cash flow. And that is just going to be a sum of the entire bottom line to see what we get out of the investment. I'll make that dollars with no decimal points. Next is going to be our IRR. And to do that, we're going to use the XIRR formula. If you remember, XIRR, you take the values first, and then the matching dates. Change that to a percent. Keep that 2 decimal places. And the last metric we're going to show is the equity multiple. To do that, we're going to use the sum ifs formula. sum range, criteria range. Remember to put everything in quotations, and this should be less than 0. Sorry, greater than 0 on this side. And then divided by some ifs. Sum range, criteria range, zero. Sorry, forgot the and symbol there. And I forgot the and symbol here. And I need to remember order of operations, so another set of parentheses has to go here. And change the formatting. We want to make this a negative. Sorry, we want to make it a positive, so we have to add the negative sign in front. And make it 2 decimal places. Use custom formatting and just add an X at the end. And that is the completed monthly model. The last step is to just make it into an annual cash flow as we did before. And no need to reinvent the wheel here. What we're going to do is copy and paste this formula down and clean up all the blank spaces. So you can see this gets us down to the final formula. But we do need to make a few adjustments to add in the period 0 that we added into the monthly cash flow. So if I insert a column there, and add start date. And since these are one-time events, we don't need the sum if formula. I can just link it. Do this in per square foot numbers. Now, fix that row, multiply by building square footage. And voila. Now I want to clean up some of the zeros here, so I will take those out manually. And I'm going to link the return metrics. Keep the formatting. And that is the full model. Congratulations, you've just built a 2-tenant leasing and acquisition model.